Hello everybody! This is Sanrana Neko, waking up from my nap to greet the world for the day. And by greet, I mean rewatch the first season of the live-action adaptation of Avatar The Last Airbender now that Season 2 is coming out in a few days, to see if enough time has passed for my heart to grow fonder. And after wasting over 7 hours of my life again, I can confidently say no. I still don't like this show and would rather watch the original cartoon again. Water. Earth, fire, air. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all four elements, could stop them. But when the world needed him most, he vanished. 100 years pass, and Katara and Sokka find a young airbender named Aang, who's revealed to be the Avatar. Before long, the three set out on a journey to help Aang master the four elements in order to save the world. Despite how much I don't like this adaptation, I will concede that it's not the worst one out there. Just in terms of production, the show is leagues ahead as it has great action sequences that skillfully blend martial arts and bending. The bending also looks more natural and like actual bending than whatever the heck was going on in the M. Night Shyamalan film. The sets and costumes are well crafted, and the CGI is amazing as Appa, Momo, and other creatures actually look like the live-action versions of their animated counterparts. In addition, I appreciate some of the ways in which the story was expanded, such as the increased interactions between Zuko and his crew, that gave Zuko the connection to his people that was missing in the original cartoon, and how Aang was able to get closure for Monkey Gyatso's death. Unfortunately, those were the only good things I enjoyed, because the extensive changes made to the established story and lore drove me up the wall and gave a clear understanding as to why the original creators left. And as much as I would love to air out all my grievances, we'd be here all day if I did, so I'll keep to the major sticking points and summarize as best as I can. The story does a whole lot of telling and barely any showing, as has become the signature of a Netflix show. There was an especially excessive amount of exposition and dialogue, making it feel like the target audience was 5-year-olds who need everything spelled out. There were even moments where characters will lecture others on why something is morally wrong and sound awfully presumptuous or self-righteous while doing so. And when the story does finally show, it's mostly original content that doesn't really add much besides pointless explanations to things no one asked about, like the exact strategy the Fire Nation employed to start the war, or gratuitous violence that seemed to be aimed at an HBO audience. There were also so many changes made to the story that baffle me, because of how they fundamentally altered the narrative and motivations of the characters. Like, why change the reason for Aang's disappearance from running away to he just needed a moment to think? Thus making everyone who dogpiles on him for running away seem like bullies because he didn't actually run away. Why make the Southern Water Tribe so big when its small size and lack of able-bodied men were key parts of Sokka and Katara's character? Why change the reason for the gang's journey from going north to learn water bending to helping Aang learn how to be the Avatar until he gets a vision telling him to go save the Northern Water Tribe? Why have Zuko fight back in the Agni Kai when his entire deal is that he won't fight no matter what, because he loved his family and was loyal to the Fire Lord? And all the changes made to the Northern Water Tribe drives me nuts. Like how women aren't allowed to fight but they can be chief. The North knew about the raids but didn't do anything to help. And you might as well skip the Katara and Pakku fight because it no longer means anything to the story or Katara's character growth. And don't try to argue that the writers needed to adapt 20 episodes into 8, so of course changes needed to be made. I did the math. The original cartoon's runtime with credits is 7.95 hours. The live-action show's runtime with credits is 7.167 hours. Add in the fact that 6 episodes from the cartoon weren't adapted and at least 2 were condensed, and the live-action only adapted about 4 to 5 hours of the original story. And yet the show had the audacity to gloss over character growth and bonding in favor of creating a new narrative that lacked so much of the heart and soul that made the cartoon amazing. They even added things from Season 2 and Season 3 to fill in the gaps that they made, and ended up showing how they don't actually understand what made the original story work. Like, why sacrifice Katara and Aang's relationship development by using the Cave of Two Lovers for an awkwardly placed heart-to-heart between Katara and Sokka? Why reveal Lu Ten's death just so Zuko can show compassion at a funeral where you're expected to show compassion, instead of keeping the heartbreaking reveal in Tales of Ba Sing Se? Why have Azula and Ozai show up now, and develop them in ways that make them less threatening than their original counterparts? And if that's not bad enough, the show plays so fast and loose with the lore that they create problems that'll need to be solved soon, or else countless holes will be poked into the plot. Like, why have badger moles navigate by sensing emotions? What does this mean for Toph considering she was taught how to earthbend by badger moles? Why was it so easy for Katara and Sokka to go to the spirit world just by being near Aang when he went to the spirit world? Why make Yue a spirit bridge just because she was blessed by the moon? What's the point of having the Avatar be a bridge between worlds if anyone who's blessed by a spirit can become a bridge too? All of these changes to the story and lore were made, and for what? To show that the sandbox the original creator spent so long making wasn't good enough anymore and should be remade with a new creative vision? And before you guys disparage the original creators based on the rumors of them wanting to make drastic changes like having Iroh betray Zuko, 1. It's their creation, so it's their prerogative to do what they want with it. 2. That would have been something new and interesting to see because 3. What kind of betrayal are we even talking about? Would it be Zuko feeling betrayed by Iroh actively stopping him from fulfilling his mission and making him realize his dad sucks? Or backstabbing betrayal which could have led to more emphasis on found family and a stronger bond between Zuko and the gang? Which, speaking of Zuko and the gang, as good of a job as the casting department did matching the actor to their animated counterpart, the same couldn't be said with how they were written, as their characterizations and journeys were fundamentally altered for the worse. Aang is serious now, and even a little cynical and jaded to the point where it's easy to forget he's just a kid. There's none of the fun and easygoing nature that was a key part of his character, and he immediately accepted his responsibility as the Avatar, so he's basically going through the journey of Cartoon Season 3 Aang with none of the build-up to justify it. Then we have Sokka, whose sexism was replaced with his Cartoon Season 3 journey of discovering his self-worth. He's also serious now and only makes the occasional humorous or sarcastic remark. Thankfully, Zuko is the closest to his original counterpart, but due to the changes made to his backstory, everything about him feels watered down, including his scar which looks more like a bad rash than a healed burn. Iroh is also still the wise old man we know, but not the uncle we love, as he actively helps Zuko capture Aang instead of trying to deter him from wasting his time chasing after the non-existent affection of Ozai, who is no longer a narcissistic man who will burn down the world if it means he can rule it. Now he's an abusive tiger mom who just wants his kids to reach their full potential. Like, they actually made him feel upset about burning and banishing Zuko. Zhao was also not as evil as before, coming off more as a sly opportunist than a power-hungry, arrogant asshole. I was honestly shocked when he said he'd have a chance to become the Fire Lord if he killed the moon because it came out of nowhere. And Boomy actually upset me, because he was no longer a crazy and wise old man who missed his friend, but a bitter geezer who hates Aang because he didn't have to suffer through 100 years of war. Sure, I can see his bitterness being more realistic, but the way they went about it made him feel more like a kid throwing a tantrum, and his challenges felt more like a punishment than a teaching moment. But the worst changes were made to the female characters, as the show did everything in its power to remove sexism or recontextualize it in a confusing manner. Suki is now a strong girl warrior who's thirsty for Sokka instead of a warrior who also happens to be a girl. Yue is a waterbender and spiritual leader, which are interesting additions to her character, but the show doesn't do anything with them, so they're pointless add-ons. Azula is no longer a powerful prodigy girl boss who knows she's a powerful prodigy girl boss. She's a spoiled, insecure princess who's mad that daddy won't praise her until she magically figures out how to bend lightning before even getting her signature blue flames. And Katara is extremely passive now in comparison to her original counterpart. There's no fire, no passion, and no motherly attributes that were so key to her character. Her raw potential, which just needed guidance to harness it, was replaced with she was always amazing and just had to realize it. Like, all she needed was some advice, one lesson, a short duel, a grand speech, And bam! She's a waterbending master. By bending over backwards to remove blatant sexism from the story, the live-action show is actually more sexist than the original cartoon, which took the time and effort to show exactly why sexism was bad through the actions and growth of all the characters. Overall, Season 1 of the live-action adaptation of Avatar The Last Airbender gets a D+. The only reason why it's not getting an F is because of the pretty spot-on casting and amazing production, barring some lackluster action sequences and money-wasting scenes. And the main reason why the show sucks is because of the writing. The story mixes together episodes from the original cartoon without much thought as to how they could work together without sacrificing and replacing key narrative and thematic components. The overall pacing is atrocious, glossing over or skipping vital character growth and bonding in favor of a new narrative that doesn't improve or expand upon the original story in meaningful ways. The characters are all watered down or fundamentally altered versions of themselves to the point where many are unrecognizable or outright disrespectful. Especially the female characters, as the show tries so hard not to be sexist that they're actually more sexist instead. And the world building makes no sense in the grand scheme of things or creates problems that require complex mental gymnastics in order to solve them. In addition, the story really suffers from the Netflix trademark of telling instead of showing with all of its exposition, explanations, and self-righteous lecturing. And the show tries to make things so realistic that it basically removes what gave the original cartoon its heart, sacrificing fun for seriousness that lessened the contrast between the youth of the characters and the setting of war. In fact, if I hadn't seen the original cartoon, I would have thought the show was made by and for HBO, not by and for Netflix and Nickelodeon. But at the end of the day, I'm really more disappointed than upset, because there was an amazing opportunity to bring the world of Avatar The Last Airbender to life, but it was squandered once again. And as much as I hate the show, I am morbidly curious enough to want to see how they'll improve in Season 2, though I have a sinking feeling that the ways in which they'll address the problems of Season 1 is by either ignoring them entirely, or coming up with absurd solutions to the equally absurd problems they created. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Reminder that this is just my opinion, so you can take it with as many grains of salt as you want. I don't mind either way, and would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment which show you'd like me to give my 2 cents about next. Also, I'll be making a rewrite video where I'll present a better way to adapt Season 1 of the original cartoon, because it is possible, and I honestly think the writers were just too quick on the draw to realize that. So please look forward to it as I hope to get it out around the time of Season 2's release. Anyways, this is some random Neko rushing off to meet that deadline. Don't forget to keep calm and just meow.